So back in 2010, when I quit Fiesta for good, which is a joke now, but back in 2010, when I quit Fiesta for good, I picked up a game called Dragon Nest with some old high school friends of mine that turned out to be college friends, and still friends currently to this day. And we played this game feverishly for about 2 years, nonstop, rushing through content, attending raids, and PvPing our hearts out. At the time, I had my 2010 Asus laptop. Laptop was great, but it wasn't the best laptop that was out there. It was a good laptop for the time being. It could play Fiesta, but with Dragon Nest, it just could not keep up. And I look at the footage now that I had back then versus the footage I have now, and I'm like, oof. The frame drops that were present back then, I couldn't deal with now. Like, this combat right here is smooth and fluid, and I couldn't witness this like in any lower frames as it is now. Like, oh my god. Yeah, but I started playing this game way back, and the cap, I forgot what the cap was at the time. It might have been 40, it might have been 50. I think it was 40 cap at the time. And we started playing, and we had so much fun playing this game. And it sucked me in because the combat was new. Like, it was a step out of the tab target that Fiesta is, the standstill combat that Fiesta is, into my very first action combat MMORPG with combos and just fluid movement and just an overall better gameplay style. And of course, just like Fiesta, in the beginning, we weren't required to enhance our gears to +9 or +10 or whatever it was to compete in regular content like the nests or the raids. We were just having to go there and compete with skill and learn the mechanics. And if you learned the mechanics, you learned them. And if you didn't, then you failed and did not get picked to play in any future content, which is sadly where the game seemed to have failed, because as the game progressed, people just weren't as good. We had new players coming into the game that didn't want to learn mechanics, they just wanted the DPS content down, and that's not how this game works. You can't just DPS things. Right here, it looks like I'm DPSing things down, and that's all I'm doing is just mashing through things, but realize, look at where my HP is at. This is content I should be ready for. This is content that my gear should be set for, but I'm just running through stuff. This is me just literally wanting to show you what it's like trying to run through stuff. I would be dead a few times over if I wasn't playing how I was playing and using my heals when I needed to use my heals. And not every character has heals, by the way. So I play a good character that's well balanced. Well, she's well balanced now. She used to be overpowered as hell when I first played her in her other form. And she's kind of overpowered now in this form too, to be honest. But with the character tuning that there is, I don't think she's that bad in PvP versus other classes. But yeah, like the way Dragon Nest set people aside, and if you were good, you were good. But if you were bad, you just couldn't compete in content. And if you couldn't compete in content, if you didn't get mechanics, you couldn't compete in the raids, and the raids were the main part of the game. The raids and the dragon nests were the main part of the game, where you had sea dragon, green dragon, desert dragon, red dragon, all those dragons, that the raids that you had to do, and you had to learn each one of their unique mechanics, as well as the regular nests for like things like Typhoon Kim, which is where it started setting people apart, where people had to do Typhoon Kim nest and Professor Crag nest. And these are like your Kingdom Quest and Fiesta if you're a Fiesta player watching this. You pretty much go in, you run through like multiple obstacles, and then you fight the boss at the end. And they have mechanics that would make you just like, you can't just DPS, like you literally could never just DPS anything down in Dragon Nest in the early game, and up till now really, like even though my damage seems very insane, like I'm putting off hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions of damage, up to a whole trillion damage, but it's not the HP of the monsters is just matching up to my damage. And so it takes a lot more work, a lot more of your combos, a lot more pulling things together to take down some of these monsters. And right here, I'm fighting two mini bosses. These aren't full bosses, but you can see they're doing things that you're gonna have to start. Like if you're just playing this as a new player and you don't understand what's going on, especially for a Kingdom Quest is much harder than this is a regular dungeon. This is, not a Kingdom Quest, a dragon, a nest. A nest is much harder than a regular dungeon, and this is a regular dungeon. Unlike, I guess this would be technically hardcore mode, like level 1. There's other modes as it goes up. You have to unlock their rankings going higher. But nests are much, much harder than this. This type of content can be solo, but as you go higher, you might need to grab a party, or might need to be better geared, better enhanced, and stuff like that. Now, I really hoped this game would like pick up at some point, but it's still just for the skilled people. It really is. PvP is for skilled people. PvE is for skilled people. You can't get that far in the PvE without having some type of skill under your belt, without being willing to learn to do the mechanics that pop up in Dragon Nest. And that's where a lot of people just weren't able to kick the bucket. Like they weren't able to actually stay on par with everyone else, because if you fail your mechanic check, you might cost the whole raid. And that's just how it was. Like in the Green Dragon Nest, there was a spot where everyone had to be in the protective circle when the dragon did its breath. And if you were in that protective circle, you died, and you might fail. You might cause the entire raid to fail the damage check that comes directly after. And if you were a DPS and you died and you caused the raid to fail the damage check, they'd run it with you one more time on practice mode so they don't waste their keys. And if you failed again, you'd be out of the raid team. Like that's just how harsh the game was when it came to doing PvE content, especially what was supposed to be in-game PvE content at the time. And the nest they released, like the Dragon Nest they released, they just got harder and harder, and they took more time to complete. And it skilled people out. It really skilled a lot of people out. And then PvP, my favorite part of this game is PvP. Oh my god, the combat in this game, as you see the combat here, like this is just me just kind of tearing through things. PvP is fast-paced, fun, and full of combos, full of wall bounces, ground bounces, air combos, depending on the class you play. Like, you can string so many moves together and have your opponent fight you back, and it won't be just a one-sided, beat down. Your opponent can actually fight back if they are skilled enough. But once again, it's a skill thing, and a lot of players that came into the game didn't want to learn the skills it took to do this type of PvP. They want to knock down, drag out of pretty much just beating down on your opponent, which is how Black Desert is PvP is currently is. Like, you knock them down and you spam all your skills and they're dead. This game isn't like that. You can't just knock them down and beat them down until their HP is 0. They have a chance to either do a knockback, which will knock you out of your next attack and it has super armor, or they can do a get up with that has invincible or iframes that lets them get out of your range of your attack, and then they can launch their counter attack. And the PvP is just so drastic in this game. I love this game, and I wish it got some type of love in the state that it is, but people just aren't willing to learn the mechanics of things in this game, and that's where it suffered and will continue to suffer in the future. There are hardcore players that still play this game, that still do nests, which I wish I could get into being one of those groups, because I did love doing the nests, and I did love playing some of these dragon raids. I did love doing a lot of these regular nests as well. I was one of the top tier players when it came to being able to compete in raids and stuff. I was constantly used to be in raids to fill spots when people weren't able to make it for whatever reason. I was a very good extra that showed up on time in the time period that we played, but the people that couldn't cut it, like when I'd replace them, they'd get in their feelings, and yeah, we would fall out when it comes to stuff like that. And that's the nature of the game. Like, it's a get good situation, and this game requires you to get good, to stay competitive, to stay especially PvE competitive, because PvP in this game was not a straight up show off your gear thing. PvP was equalized. You would equalize your PvP gear. Your skills would be equalized to a number where everything was more balanced, and your damage wouldn't be so outrageous to where like you can't just one combo someone. And like there was a way to unequalize your gear and like play with your gear that you have, but it wasn't ranked PvP. Whereas ranked PvP was equalized and gave everybody an equal chance no matter what gear they had. And so PvP wasn't as toxic as say PvP in Fiesta. PvP in Fiesta is toxic because it's based on your gear that you farmed, and because you farm that gear and you are better than that person, or you feel that you're better than that person because you plus 10, plus 12 your armor, then you feel like you've earned that. But in Dragon Nest, you need the skill, and if you don't have the skill and you can't get the skill, you're gonna want to quit because someone's just completely outpacing you every chance you get, and you can't seem to get better. And that's what drove away a lot of the weaker PvPers, because the game is fun. It's very, very fun when you get into it, but it takes a lot of learning. The learning curve to play Dragon Nest is huge. You can't just hop in and think you're gonna be one of the best people. You have to learn your combos, you have to learn your class, you have to learn your skills, you have to learn your iframes, you have to learn everything about your character that you're going to play, especially if you're going to play multiple characters. Most people only focus on one. I played every single character, except for the assassin. But I'm done rambling on. I just wanted to go ahead and show some love to Dragon Nest and kind of talk about the fall of Dragon Nest and where it's at now. People still play, but it's not as much as it used to be. I don't see anyone in PvP anymore, which is saddening to me because, like I said, I love the PvP in this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to go ahead and talk about that. I woke up and Fiesta's on maintenance still, so I went ahead and tried to see if I can catch up on Dragon Nest. And there wasn't much for me to catch up on. Like the level cap I think is 99 now, which I'm like 4 levels off. Which I don't think I'm gonna go ahead and push that anytime soon. Even though that would let me into the ladder PvP, which is ranked PvP. I'm not gonna push that anytime soon. I might do it later on when I get really bored. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. It's been forever, and peace out.